Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well there. If you guys could subscribe, hey, that'd be great. Man, it is a rotten day down here in South Florida. I mean, kind of messed up my whole long weekend off to go snorkeling and enjoy that South Florida water, but it's pouring down from the sky, and hopefully we'll make all of our veggies look very nice. So I guess there's that. But either way, I wanted to get to this. So we hosted on Wednesday night the draft show on 560 WQM. You can watch Tobin and Leroy weekdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'll be back Monday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. But check out what the boys did today, Frog Boy and Jennifer, Frog Boy, Vlad, Leroy, and you can check out their show on the 560 WQM YouTube page. And wherever your podcasts are available, please go subscribe on your podcast platforms as well as YouTube. That'd be great. But I didn't get a chance to react to this video, which was this interview that we did on draft night, which was Goosey's galore, quite frankly. It almost was like in the whirlwind of the day because we got a chance to sit down with a couple of Heat legends on the draft show. And one was Glenn Rice, and G-Money, an absolute legend, number 41. But in a parallel cross-universe now, like the ambassadors who were there together, Glenn Rice on the floor alongside Alonzo Mourning. The other person who was there was Kel'el Ware. Kel'el Ware did an appearance, and Alonzo Mourning then did a little interview with us, and he sat down for like 10 minutes. But half of the interview was discussing Alonzo, because as soon as Alonzo comes over there, bring him over to the table and like, Zoe, let's think back a year's time, because there was one of my favorite photos from the draft last year. Kel'el Ware gets drafted, and then 2 days later on Zoe's gram, he's got Kel'el Ware at a restaurant, the Heat legendary big man, best center the Miami Heat have ever had, alongside their new future Heat big man. And so I thought it was a really, really cool moment. And I've talked to Zoe a little bit about this. We had him on earlier in the year, but to think back with a year's time, and Zoe gets very deep, and he really does believe a lot in the potential of people, and he believes in work. I mean, Alonzo Mourning, a man who, under under incredible bring up in his basketball life from Georgetown with, his idol Patrick Ewing, and at one point was like, the many rivals from the Heat-Knicks rivalry. And this man just believes in the work. And you remember, if you talk about just phenomenal physique, building himself up, turning himself into an absolute machine, still looks in phenomenal shape. But it's an interesting dynamic to talk to him about Kel'el, because everybody thinks that, Kel'el has all the talent in the world. He has pretty nice offensive touch and polish. Looks like an absolute alien with his length and his leaping ability. One of the best lob threats in the league. But obviously there has to be growth there with strength. And so got to sit down with Zoe. And Zoe was, I'm going to play the clip here for you. It's a few minutes, so you guys can hear it if you didn't hear it. But here was Alonzo Mourning discussing what the work has been like for Kel'el Ware.
What do you remember about that first meal with Kel'el Ware when after he got drafted, you welcome him into the Heat family, and what have you thought about the first year that he's had down here?
Well, my first words to him were welcome and let's get to work. And I told him, I said, you have the potential. You have the potential to be one of the greatest players in Miami Heat franchise history. I said, you have that potential. And I said, but you got to put in the work, and that's how we started off the conversation, and he's done just that. If you think about, how he started the season and how he ended it, he's made incredible strides, So if we can continue to see that type of progress, then, we're on our way as a franchise.
What does that balance look like, though? He couldn't really find his way into the rotation. Then all of a sudden, he's starting. He's being talked about as Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And the Heat, at that time, though, they're looking for some help scoring the basketball.
Sure.
They obviously want him and Bam to coexist on the floor together. Bam has to shift over and play a whole new role.
Right.
How tough is it for not only a rookie but anybody to have to balance, okay, I need to help my team scoring. He can do that, but I also need to be a force down low while also just, hey, I'm a rookie trying to learn my way through the league.
Well, I mean, it's a step-by-step process. We know his skill level. We see it on a regular basis, especially when he's in practice. We see signs of the greatness. Now it's about putting in the work and developing a level of consistency, and that's just going to happen with time. It ain't but so much you can expect from a 20-year-old kid. Especially with the pressures of the media and the coaches in his ear all the time, and traveling to different cities and the crowds and the fans. It's just a whole lot to digest. It really is. But he's got a bright future. He really does, and mentally he's in the right place. Because it didn't take too long where he was back in the gym after the season was over with, and getting the reps in and doing what he needs to do to be prepared for next season. So we're excited about his growth. We really are. We're excited about his growth. And this summer I've already seen him get better. This summer, just in his workouts. And so he doesn't have to be here. This is his time off. But that kind of speaks volumes that he's kind of blocked out all the distractions as a kid.
So you've seen him here a lot. Like
And,
he's been in the gym like crazy this summer.
He's been in the gym, and he's just putting the work in. So and he knows he's got to get stronger. And improve a lot of different parts of his game. And he's working on it. So I'm very happy and excited to see his development going into next year.
There's no question in anybody's mind you were a phenomenal player from the moment you stepped on the floor in the NBA.
Right.
But you obviously made strides between your first year and your second year.
Yeah.
What strides did you make that you hope he makes from year one to year number two?
To get stronger. We noticed the physicality of the game affected him a lot. It really did, and I could name several games, where he got moved a little bit too easily in that center position.
We know because Spoke called timeout every time.
Yeah. So he got moved around a couple of times, and he's just got to get a little bit more comfortable with his body, and from that perspective. But outside of that, his shot is there, and that's improving. And we just need him to be an ultimate defensive force in that paint, especially utilizing his length, his God-given length that he has, and his athleticism. He could be a phenomenal defensive force. But again, his body has to get stronger, and once his body gets stronger, he'll get a little bit more confident in some of the things that he's capable of doing.
So a few things stand out to me on that. And that is, one, he's garnered the respect of Alonzo, because I know that Alonzo Mourning really does believe in that. This is something with like Bam Adebayo when he's talked about his potential. Like, he was talking wild about Bam's Heat future when Bam was just done with his first year. And with this, like, he talked about the conversation that he had with him from getting drafted, but he didn't go into maybe the talk that he had when he was on a boat with him, where he's like, oh, Bam, we're going to raise his number to the Raptors. He's going to lead us one day, which he nailed. But with this, you could tell that like he's very, very satisfied seeing how much work Kel'el has been doing, and that basically from the time the season ended, because Kel'el's not like the biggest social media guy even for his age. Like, you don't see a lot from him, you don't hear a lot from him, and apparently like Zoe's like, nah, man, this guy has been working his ass off. And if you're a Heat fan and you hear that this guy's been in the gym, he's been building his strength, he knows that he's been pushed around a little bit, he knows that he hasn't that he didn't physically live up by the end of the last year, but also knowing where his age is at and how much there's still room to grow. To get that kind of an endorsement from Alonzo Mourning is and I just felt it very genuine. I don't find Zoe to be a guy who BS's around a lot. He's Alonzo Mourning. Like, this is not a guy who is going to go and lay down the flowers for everybody. And that's even with being in the Heat organization. Like, he's real about it. Like, he doesn't throw that stuff out there. And so for him to, and you got to think that he's got a special level of pride in it too, because of like the big man fraternity. And so to know that Kel'el has been in the gym a lot and has been putting in a ton of work, I think has to have Heat fans absolutely juiced up for what this upcoming sophomore year is going to be like for him. Because I think it's one of the big questions, right? Is like, this is a guy who we were sitting here and we're like, all right, Miami Heat aren't touching you in trade talks, maybe unless it's for like Joker Giannis Luka. Like, that's probably the list right now. But for everybody else, they're taking you off. And I have seen some reaction that says, hey, like, people are going to treat him now like Tyler Hero because he wasn't in the Kevin Durant trade and all that. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I honestly don't think that, and I don't necessarily believe that's what people who critique Tyler, I don't really think it comes down to, oh, he was the guy that we didn't trade for this or didn't trade for that or didn't whatever. I don't think that's what it comes down to. Is Tyler more active on social media, and so does he engage, or did a couple of years ago? Maybe not last year, Tyler Hero. Like, last year felt like Tyler Hero kind of wiped a lot of that stuff away. This, the previous years with the rabbit ears on social media, yeah, maybe a little bit. But again, very young. And I do think that probably comes with years and experience and all that type of stuff. But I don't think that people's criticisms of Hero are paired up with, oh, he's the guy we didn't get for Damian Lillard. Oh, he's the guy we didn't get for Donovan Mitchell. But they are realities as far as like, hey, if the organization is going to say, we're not going to go all in on this guy, and then you're going to put it up against, other peers, then yeah, it's just going to be a reality of the job and comparisons. But I think it probably has more to do with the health before last year than anything, and then postseason struggles being a reality since his first season. So I think that's what that comes down to more so. And I think for Kel'el, he didn't have the first year in the playoffs like Tyler Hero did. He had a really rough go of it. He got pushed around by Jarrett Allen, and it looked like there was a big learning curve that needs to happen, and especially physically. And the thing with him is, though, I think that naturally is going to come. And I don't expect Kel'el Ware to come back looking like Alonzo Mourning. I understand what his build is. He is long-limbed and explosive and all that type of stuff. And a lot of guys don't like to add a ton of weight. This used to be a Chris Bosh thing for a long time. Like, didn't want to add, played sometimes with a big bulk and then didn't like it as much, and didn't like the way that it felt on each. So there is a happy medium that has to be there. I think a lot of it also will be instincts of the game, learning the game, but also that there's just going to be natural growth there as well. I mean, just turning 21 years old, there's going to be time there, and there's going to be stuff. But the fact that he seems like he's taken all that advice in the right way, because I do think that even afterwards, like I don't think it dawned on him like what had just happened, right? Very like short after the playoffs, and you could tell like it was bothering him, but like didn't get the whole concept of it. And I think, if you're hearing that his reaction to all this is working the way that he has, that message has gotten through. And, the one thing that Kel'el that has been seemed to have been completely bugged, people talked about motor and they talked about work ethic or all that want to. That doesn't seem like any of that stuff has been displayed all the time. And 7-footers always have to be looked upon with a little bit of a different eye when it comes to motor and stuff like that, just because they are bigger than every other person and it doesn't look the same. But oh man, I heard that from Alonzo Mourning, and I was like, dude, this is a freaking symphony to my ears to hear this kind of news about the Kryptonian himself. I mean, that was it was it was absolute beautiful to hear this about Kel'el Ware. The other thing that's out there today, Shams got on First Take today and started talking some more Kuminga noise. And again, man, I'm gonna say what I said the night of the draft when I was doing this, because the noise has gotten very loud. Zach Lowe came out and he goes, "The smoke is real." Shams has been very strong on it. I don't know. I'm not dismissing it. It just seems to me like, are there any other teams that are in this? Because like I keep hearing that Kuminga wants to be a second or third option at worst. You look at the Miami Heat, and well, if they're not gonna have Andrew Wiggins, that's probably like the obvious slot you're gonna be in if you think you're coming in on a big contract. It just feels, I don't know. There's just something that feels a little manufactured about it. I could be sitting here in a week's time and he could be signing a $100 million deal with the Heat and I'll look stupid. But it's not that I don't think the Heat have no interest in Kel'el Ware. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't think the Heat have any interest in Jonathan Kuminga. But if you're telling me that the team didn't go all in for Kevin Durant, they're trying to seems like they're, clearing out their books seems to be a big priority for them. And then Jonathan Kuminga's sitting around here, and he's like, well, what are the options? The Kings, the Bulls, and the Heat? Like, I don't know. I look at all that, and I'm just I just remain skeptical about it. That's all. That's all. Not that it's not true. I'm not completely dismissing it. I'm not even saying I hate the move. I'm just saying that a lot of the stuff that's out there is like, I think it just feels like that's a lot of Kuminga noise and Warriors noise that's out there more so than Heat stuff. And in fact, it was reported, I think at least by draft day, didn't Barry and Anthony report that after the Durant thing, I think that the report was that at that particular time they hadn't even looked into DeRozan or Kuminga. I don't know if that's changed since. But even for Shams to like break in and be like, yeah, the Heat, they could be one of the potential shooters. It's like, yeah, I guess they could be. It's kind of an undebunkable report. I'm just still a little bit like, I'm not sure how much I believe this. I'm not sure. I don't know if full grasp of it if I think that the Heat are really leaning into Kuminga being their like true offseason plan. It does seem, just to reiterate what I talked about, like it does feel like the Wiggins era, like, yeah, that chapter may be coming to a close. That does seem like it's marching down that path, but I still don't know about the Kuminga stuff.